All right, we'll introduce ourselves. Counselor?
I'm Fred Ansell. I'm an attorney with the Justice Department here in Washington. Used to work in the Senate in this building.
My name is Candida Steele, and I'm a judge on the U.S. Civilian Board of Contract Appeals. I handle federal government contract hearings across the country.
My name is Rick Hardy, one of the Hardy Boys, and I'm professor and chair of the Department of Political Science at Western Illinois University. I've been involved in the program since 1987. Would you please introduce yourself? You're a distinguished professor.
Hi, my name is Brett Beyer. I will be attending Auburn University in the fall and studying electrical engineering.
Hi, my name is Alex Ash. I'll be attending the University of Alabama in the fall and studying pre-medicine.
My name is Jenny Lee. I will be attending Emory University in the fall and studying business. These are teachers, Ms. Amy Maddox and Ms. Jane Schaefer, and we're very excited to be here this afternoon.
Well, the question I'm sure you figured out by now is question number 3, for the benefit of the audience. Congress is the only national legislature in the world whose members are elected both separately from the executive branch and entirely from the single-member election, the single-member districts. What are the benefits or advantages of this arrangement? What might be the advantages of mingling executive and legislative powers, such as in the British parliamentary system? The disadvantages? Why has the creation of congressional districts been so controversial throughout American history? We begin.
In Shaw v. Reno, 1993, Justice O'Connor noted, racial gerrymandering, even for remedial purposes, may balkanize us into competing racial factions. The issue was the amended Voting Rights Act of 1982, which made states create majority-minority districts to ensure equal opportunities for all races of Americans.
Though often overlooked, the local single-member district ultimately shapes national policy. Congress members may be paid from the federal treasury, but the system of geographic representation ensures that they jealously guard the interests of their local constituencies.
Drawing congressional districts has caused controversies throughout American history. Since the Articles of Confederation, states have controlled elections of the national representatives. In Federalist 59, Alexander Hamilton states, "Nothing could be more evident of the Union being entirely at the states' mercy than their power of regulating elections for the national government."
However, Article 1, Section 4 allows Congress to regulate state elections. In response to civil rights activist demands, Congress passed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. In 1982, they amended Section 2 of the VRA, causing majority-minority districting to become the standard for securing minority representation. This method of redistricting, in which African Americans and Latinos constitute a majority of the voters, has certainly been successful in electing minority representation.
However, majority-minority redistricting, especially in the South, has caused an absence of competition in and around the target districts, leading to high incumbency rates. Congressional district may create high percentage of minorities in majority-minority districts, but bleach the surrounding districts. Also, the lack of political opposition leads to low voter turnout because the results are known well before the ballots are cast.
Only 2 other advanced democracies still elect all national representatives from single-member districts, Canada and Great Britain. In these parliamentary systems, policymaking is highly centralized in the executive. In Great Britain, the majority party in the House of Commons chooses the Prime Minister.
The separately elected President of the United States allows 2 different parties to hold power in the legislative and executive branches and has checks to our democratic system. Because the Prime Minister has the support of the majority party, he can more easily pass programs through Parliament. However, if he loses the majority support, a vote of no confidence can be called, effectively removing the Prime Minister from office.
Unlike impeachment, as enumerated in Article 2, Section 4, a vote of no confidence does not require high crimes and misdemeanors. Therefore, legislative power in the parliamentary system greatly outweighs executive power. Prime ministers are directly dependent on Parliament's graces, while the U.S. executive enjoys more independence through the 3 branches separation of powers.
Congressmen and members of Parliament both rely on the support of constituents in order to serve. Therefore, the opinions of citizens are held above most personal or party politics. District size has become an increasing concern, especially with the House of Representatives. 437 representatives represent on average 670,000 Americans each. Thus, the impact of the individual citizen has greatly diminished since the founding. With the 2010 census, the ratio of citizens to representatives will likely grow.
Conversely, there are 646 members in the House of Commons, with a lower ratio of citizens per representative of only 91,000. During Prime Minister's questions, members of Parliament demand explanations for cutbacks in their local constituencies. Their inquisitions hold more weight because of their closer relationship with the national government.
Parceling out representation to geographic constituencies creates legislators who see serving the narrow interests of their constituencies as fundamental to the role of the political system. However, those narrow views are increasingly harder to substantiate for the House of Representatives.
The differences between the presidential system of government and parliamentarianism are quite clear, each having benefits over the other. At the Constitutional Convention, James Madison claimed, all men having power ought to be mistrusted to a certain degree. Whether a presidential or parliamentarian system, in any limited government, true sovereignty rests with the people. Thank you. We are now ready for the question.
All right, thank you.
In 1961, after the Bay of Pigs, President Kennedy called in the CIA director and he said, if this were a parliamentary system, I would have to resign. But this is a presidential system, so you're going to have to resign. What causes that difference? And which of the two systems do you think is better?
Well, with the parliamentarian system, a vote of no confidence can be called by the majority party in Parliament. And with the vote of no confidence, it clearly shows that the people and the representatives that are sent to Parliament don't support the president. And that's why the Prime Minister, and that's why the Prime Minister will talk to the Queen and say a general election will be held, and he will usually not be elected as Prime Minister again in the next election. And the President does not defer to Congress's graces. Therefore, he doesn't have to step down.
Right, you see, one of the principal differences between our presidential system and the parliamentary system is that our president is elected separately from Congress. We had the three branches that the founders wanted a separation of powers because they didn't want there to be a mixing of powers, and so the president, because he's elected separately, he has that same his accountability.
We see that with the president, he's guaranteed his 4 terms in office besides if he's impeached. We see that this allows the executive a lot more freedom to execute law that Congress gives him, rather than being so lenient upon Parliament, which the Prime Minister directly derives his power from.
Right, and to answer the last part of your question, I believe that our presidential system is the best form of government for us because we have this separation of powers, which prevents any one branch from being tyrannical.
Do you think that bitter partisanship that we've got in Congress today is partly a consequence of the way that congressional districts are drawn?
I definitely agree with that statement. I think because we elect members from single-member districts, that means, because the incumbency rates are so high, we only see one view. So that means that, when, for example, the healthcare in Alabama, the majority of Alabamians don't like healthcare and don't agree. So they think that anybody else anybody who is a proponent for healthcare, that they're evil, and that it increases this, partisan bickering because you have, two sides that, and there's no real deliberation within these congressional districts.
And in Article 1, Section 4, it gives states the power to draw these district lines. And in each state, it's usually one party that's in charge of redistricting after every census that's taken. And I would say that if a nonpartisan group was put in charge of redistricting those lines, then the partisan bickering that we see, and the democratic system would be healthier, and that more opinions would be shown clearly, and the parties wouldn't be in control of how the lines are drawn.
Yes, we see at the founding of our country, it was every 2 years, the people voted for the representatives. But now we see that sort of with these the parties being able to draw these lines, it's every 10 years the representatives get to choose their constituents.